I got involved early in my career. My very first boss made me get involved, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. I was super busy. I was a new lawyer. I was a single mom with two young children. But I very quickly learned the value in working with other attorneys, outside of my office, even outside of my practice area. And so I started to enjoy the opportunity to learn new things from people with more experience. And then over time, I started to speak on panels at events, or when I started writing for the Journal for the Tax section, I started to build my CV. And so that was meaningful to me as well at a fairly early stage. And of course, over time, I grew as a practitioner, and eventually I grew as a leader by my involvement with CLA. I've been involved with the association for 20 years in some leadership capacity. So I clearly find value in my time spent with CLA, and I've just learned so much from so many truly remarkable people. And you stay involved in volunteership, I think, for different reasons over time. As time goes by, initially you're needing mentorship, and then over time you're the one mentoring other people, opening the doors for others by making connections and introducing people, which is very easy to do when you've been practicing for a while, but younger attorneys need that. So that's been something that's been meaningful and enjoyable to do as a volunteer for CLA. And then, I like to learn. I never like to stop learning. And I don't mean just in other practice areas or as a business owner, but sometimes, I surprise myself. Ledge Day is one of our big annual events, which in board leadership, that's something that you go to. I didn't know that I would be interested in that because that's not a part of my practice area. It was fascinating. I couldn't believe the things that I learned from our state representatives who would come and speak to us about the work that they're doing. I really learned a tremendous amount that way. I also learned that I'm apparently a courthouse junkie, which surprised me. A couple things happened. I had one unique experience where I got to participate in a very minor way on an amicus brief that we submitted to the United States Supreme Court. And then I got to go with some of my colleagues from the tax section to actually hear it argued in the Supreme Court. We were just a few feet away from the justices. So that was kind of a remarkable experience. And then there have been some trips arranged by the International Law and Immigration section that they organize with other bar associations from other countries and territories where we have friendship agreements in place. So I've been able to tour the Supreme Court of Japan in Tokyo and the Supreme Court in Mexico City as well. And it's just fascinating to meet with the justices who will set aside some time to speak with us as a small group, learn some things about the history of their court, tour their beautiful courthouses. So that was a surprise to me. But again, it's that always learning more about the legal system, people from different backgrounds, different cultures. That's been meaningful to me as well. I have gotten to know so many incredible, intelligent, talented lawyers, judges, legal professionals, staff members at CLA. I've worked with them closely, particularly in my term as president. So that's probably been the most rewarding experience for me, is just that time, whether we're working on putting a presentation together or any project that has come our way. That's been very enjoyable. Probably the most impactful thing that happened to me was something somebody said to me when I went to a bar event and I listened to a colleague, an attorney originally from El Salvador, speak. And he shared his story, and I wrote about it in a column in the CLA's e-news. And he saw the article and he reached out to me. So we had a conversation about some future project we might do together and some other things. And after we got off the call, he sent me an email and he wrote, "I have never felt so seen." And that is something that has stayed with me. Having that chance to connect with people and have those experiences, somebody who wants to work together to bring change, even small change, that is something that was significant to me. I think the biggest accomplishment during my term has been the growth of our impact. We've had so many firsts. Some things that might have seemed small have had a bigger impact. CLA had its first ever swearing-in ceremony for new attorneys who passed the bar this spring, and we had an event with a reception, and it wasn't a large event, but the leaders that were there from our bar association and other bars, the intimate remarks by the judge who administered the oath to the new attorneys, I think are things that will stay with the people who attended that event. And certainly most lawyers don't forget their swearing in, so that was meaningful. We also had our first ever in-house counsel event. That was something that was meaningful to those who practice as in-house counsel. We had our first ever leveling up event, which was so exciting. There was lawyers from all different areas, many practitioners in their own firms or with small firms, and they were excited. And we learned so many new things that I didn't expect to learn at that conference. The docket is a new tool that we have through CLA that's a phenomenal tool to our members. To me, it's like a modern day Rolodex to 50,000 attorneys, and I've been able to use it when I need attorneys in specific practice areas around the state. And if I can introduce one of my clients to an attorney who's a CLA member, I feel good about that. I feel confident in the attorney who's part of their bar association being the attorney I refer to someone else. We also have some new things coming up at our annual meeting this year. I'm particularly excited about the Sisters-in-Law event. That is a first reception and workshop for women, and we have some other things that are coming up as well for the first time at our annual meeting. I'm particularly pleased with the momentum of our work with California's affinity bars and our unity bars. There is so much energy whenever we get together with other lawyers about common interests to improve access to justice, educating Californians on civics or the rule of law, learning more from lawyers and judges with disabilities. This is something that was important to me when I started my term as president. I wanted to increase the diversity in our leadership. And as I heard stories and met people from other bar associations, I knew their stories needed to be heard by more people. They needed to have a statewide voice. And so CLA can offer that platform. So that's been particularly meaningful to me. And so I'm pleased to see that growth, particularly here in Northern California. Also with smaller bar associations, Fresno, Central Valley, we've been doing some work there. I think that's important to reach out to lawyers who don't have access to as many in-person events in their region. So those are things that I've been pleased with and seen the growth for CLA during my term. For the future, I'm excited about our new slate of officers. They're a remarkable group, as is the board, and so I'm excited to see what they will do to continue on the good work we've been doing, but I know they have a lot of energy and they have new ideas, so I'm excited to see how things go from there. Again, there's a huge need in California to provide access to justice, and the way people view our legal system and how we provide service to people really is critical. So that will be something that through CLA, our members can impact change. And, it doesn't matter if it's through legislators or through the work in our fields or mentorships, just bringing new ideas to fruition will be something I'm excited to observe. Take the time. Take the call, accept the invitation, commit to the event, invest time in others. It's important to listen to people, but you have to get outside of your office to hear them. I have just connected with so many people, and sometimes they're the tax section, which is where I came up through the taxation section, and they have a young tax lawyers committee. They also have a mentorship program called Odyssey, and I have mentored so many young tax lawyers or law students, and that's meaningful because their questions are, again, it's important to them. They're early in their career, but when you've been practicing for a while, it's very easy to answer or point them, connect them to somebody else or recommend a program or some event or, to connect them to our new lawyers section, especially because our new lawyers section will have events in a variety of cities. So just helping them get out there. And then you see something, I noticed that on the slate of officers to be approved by the board for the new lawyers section. At our next board meeting, I see a name, I'm like, oh, she was a mentee. And it's like, that's awesome. She wanted to get more involved. She wanted to get into leadership and she did it. So that kind of thing is really exciting to see. Or, something will pop up on LinkedIn that somebody's celebrating 5 years in their own practice. And I remember when we talked about, should I leave? Should I open my own firm? And it's really meaningful to help walk people through some of those life changes and see those rewards and see them achieve those goals because, somebody did it for probably all of us, had some mentor, guidance, something along the way who helped us. And so that's been really special to see. I would say to the incoming president, but also to incoming section chairs or any leadership. Don't wait to get started. Gear up in advance, get to know your incoming board reps, committee leaders, section chairs quickly, because that will accelerate their connection to the board, to the people they're going to spend their next year with. And you don't want people to look back and say, I had no idea what was going on my first year. And it's easy for that to happen, especially if a committee only meets 2 or 4 times a year. It takes some time to get to know them. But if you can reach out with a call or an email or at lunch before the clock starts, I think that can really be to your advantage. And to get to know key leaders at CLA. There are people at CLA that are just remarkable resources for things that we have done or can do, help. If you get called as the president to be quoted on something, that a bill that's pending or, something that's happening, there are resources at CLA that help you navigate those issues. I hope that people feel like I made a difference. Some positive change or a program that I started, a connection I made. I hope that people feel like, CLA is better than, as time goes by, it keeps growing and getting better. I guess that's really what it comes down to for me, is that ensuring that people feel seen, making sure that people feel engaged and have opportunities that they want. That's something that is would be meaningful to me. CLA is a phenomenal organization. I'm glad I said yes to the opportunities that came my way. I raised my hand, even when I was a little afraid to do so. I thought, take a chance. People will ask you to run for office. They will ask you to take a role, and sometimes you think you might not be qualified. And I think that they wouldn't ask you if they didn't see some value. We're all still learning, always. So I think that I would encourage people to say yes. The CLA staff and the body of volunteers are truly remarkable if you get to know them. It's not something that you will regret. And, that's a way to find the place where you belong in your professional career, away from your desk, and that you can make a positive difference in the legal profession. I've had such great experiences and made such tremendous friends, and I want that for everyone,